Adam Booth, Offroad Underground. What you're about to hear is a story of love building up, loss, and then the gratifying feeling of finding what you've worked so hard to have. And that is this 2016 Husqvarna 350 dual sport bike. Backtrack a little bit, this is my bike. It's been my bike twice, but what happened was a friend of mine from high school, we just happened to have the same exact motorcycle. I spent a lot of time building mine up, doing suspension, ECU, stabilizer, just all the cool stuff to my personal bike. Well, I had to sell it because I was going to a new job. So we took all the cool stuff off my bike, stuck it on his bike, which is this bike now. I sold my bike completely stock. He ended up riding this bike for a while, as you see it for the most part. And then thievery struck. They took this motorcycle, they took a nice bike carrier, and it just disappeared for 7 months. He ended up getting another dirt bike, moving on. This was the love lost, it's gone. Your heart's broken, it's bleeding. Then they found it out in Palmdale, basically at a chop shop kind of deal. This dude had boats and cars, and this bike was just sitting on the side of the house. The only thing missing from it was the seat, a radiator guard, a radiator shroud, and then the airbox cover. For the most part, everything was there. My suspension that I had done, my stabilizer, all the cool stuff I had put on his bike was still sitting there. So the cops called him, he came and got it, brought it to my house, put a battery in it, turned the key, pushed the button, the engine was turning over. It sounded a little funny, but you know, I was kind of hopeful. So then I pulled the air filter off, and inside the air filter was this beautiful metal glitter that just shimmered in the light. And then I looked down the throttle body, and that was full of metal shavings. So pretty much they had grenaded the motor. The front tire was all worn back from nose stoppies. I think this thing spent some time as just a 12 o'clock machine up and down the high desert, crackhead alleys. So we tore the motor down, we pulled it out, and the piston was literally a ball. That's why it would keep turning over. Somehow they blew the piston into this random shape and it still would turn over with the motor. So long story longer, ended up taking the motor apart, ordered cases. The only thing that was salvageable was the transmission. So $4,000 later, brand new motor, all rebuilt, super cool. He had his bike back. Well, he had already purchased more bikes and was kind of set in his ways. So then he gave me a call one morning. He's like, I'm not gonna ride this bike anymore. Do you essentially want your motorcycle back? So he sold it back to me at the super cool bro friend price, which was awesome. So getting into what this bike was and what I built it into, it's had a few changes lately. But originally I had WP kind of rework their suspension. It had 4CS forks on it in 2016. If you know much about the 4CS fork, not a great design. WP did their best job on it. It was okay. But what I did recently was I kind of found a couple-year-old pair of Explorer forks, WP. I had suspension guys redo them, a little stiffer spring, kind of do the valving, and ultimately that's changed this bike 100%. The 4CS fork is kind of crap. I don't care what you do to it. I had good guys work on it. It's just not a design that works well. So this Explorer fork, the way they have it set up, I mean, I was ready to sell this bike and get something with better forks. Just that was my bottom line. Spent a little money, got these forks. The bike actually works, front end stays up, then it travels through, then it resistance on bottoming. So that was the biggest thing on this bike. WP did a great job with the back suspension. The other thing on this thing that I've done is I did the Shinko tires. I got the 525 cheater on the back. It's kind of gummy. I run thick tubes on that. Up front's a 216 Shinko. It's like a fatty tire. I'm finding that I like that tire in the soft stuff and looser dirt. When I don't really like the fatter, flatter front profile sometimes is when you want to turn quick on harder surfaces and stuff. You kind of feel that flat tire not want to roll into the corner as much. It's a give and take thing, comfort, off-road, depending on your speed. Another really bitchin' thing on this bike that changes any bike, especially 2-strokes, this 4-stroke, is I have a fastway stabilizer on here. It's a little like the Scots where it has a high speed and a low speed, but it's quicker to adjust. I keep the low speed kind of open all the way, and when I get into tougher terrain, there's a little dial, and I'll dial in the high speed, and I'll just flick that lever a few times to still have the nice feel and looseness of the bars, but when it hits a rock, it just slows down that snap, gives me a little more confidence. Part of the coolest thing you can do to a bike is upkeep your throttle, lube your throttle tube, make that thing turn real nice. I put the Pro Taper ball bearing one on this. I actually had to cut the end off, but it still works real well. There are times when that thing is just, there's zero resistance, no matter how hard you're pulling, no matter how hard you're pushing on the bar, the thing is just super icy and super quick, and that'll make your bike feel snappier. One thing I never live without on a dual sport bike, and you've heard it over and over, double take mirrors, super stable, fold away, I love them. These things are cool. You'll take them on with any bike. So because I can't leave anything alone, I had this older Akrapovic exhaust. It's super light, super cool, but it had this really tiny choked up spark arrestor quiet thing in it. I kind of took it apart, modified it, took that out, and then I used an old FMF. I'm mixing brands here, but I took an FMF screen, fit it for in there, and kind of got it to mount in there so that I actually have a spark arrestor on this. It's not exactly illegal, but we'll not tell anybody about that. It does keep the sparks that aren't ever going to fly out of your exhaust from flying out. Old technology, they got to get rid of the spark arrestor rule. Stupid. So that lightened it up. I think that thing is 2 or 3 pounds lighter than a stock exhaust. It's ridiculous. The other thing is the Recluse clutch, which was still in this bike when they recovered it. They did probably, whoever stole this had no idea that they even had an auto clutch or how to ride an auto clutch. They probably thought the thing was broken when they tried to kickstart it. Who knows? I'm just surprised this bike came back with a straight front end and not yarded up. It did have some grind marks where you can tell they slid down the asphalt. But the Recluse is one of the torque drive auto clutches, so it mixes the torque drive plates with the auto clutch. I'm a super big fan of it, and most times, there are times where I want just a stock feel of a clutch. The clutch pull is about stock, but it still has a little more on-off feel than just a stock KTM clutch. All right, so another thing I switched out was I had a stock seat on here. When I got it back, it was missing the seat. But the seat concepts, this is a low profile. Obviously, I'm not exactly breaking any glass ceilings with my height. But it's got the wider part back here when you're comfy. You slide up, it's just as narrow and lower than a stock seat. Some people think that this is gonna get in the way when you're riding, and you really don't feel it, but man, you notice it as soon as you scoot your butt back and you have a wider platform to sit on. The decal works, graphics kit's pretty sweet. I just went on the website and you pick the different graphics and then you literally change each color, and they have a huge color palette, and you just custom make however you want it to look. And I just went with kind of like this real mellow look. And then luckily I had picked this yellow kind of highlight because when I put new forks on it, the newer forks have a different fork guard, which was yellow. So it kind of all tied in to the same deal, kind of wrap up the whole package. They turn around their graphics really quick. One thing I'm gonna do is get rid of this black side panels to just be even more white. I really don't want the black and white cop look on this thing. So the other Fastway product I'm kind of into, and I'm so happy they were still on the bike when it was recovered, are the Fastway foot pegs that are on here. I'm not sure the exact model name of them, but they've got this little extender on the back that really never comes into play until you hit something hard, or you like hit an unexpected G out or whatever, and it just catches the back of your foot. And I've never found a reason for it to hamper the way I'm riding or cause me to not like the way I'm riding the bike or feel of the bike, but man, it saves my ankles. I've got one ankle that doesn't bend that far, and it hurts if it does. And it's just this thing you kind of get used to and you don't notice until you hop on another bike and then hit something and your ankle folds way back and you don't catch that little heel catch. A lot of people have never seen these, or my friends get on my bike or they check it out and they all go, man, that's a really cool idea. And so it's kind of one of those products that doesn't really come across your radar all the time, but it's super worth it. And I was really glad that they were still on this bike. And with any kind of dual sport off-road bike, I prefer full wrap handguards just because when I drop it, it doesn't mess with the bar ends and offers a little more protection. The acronym for these handguards is THUGS, and it's the Hands Ultimate Guard System. It's a mouthful. You just need to know that they're full wrap, really burly. Inside the engine, on the chain, I just use Maximo oils for all that stuff. And I mean, basically, I kind of set this thing up the way I love it. The biggest change lately that rejuvenated my feel for this bike and didn't make me kind of hate riding really rough terrain was switching out those 4CS forks. And I don't want to be a bearer of bad news, but if you got 4CS forks, I guarantee you, no matter what you've done to them, they suck. And if you want to keep your bike and you want to just make a whole new machine and make it work right, find some different forks. Go with, like, I know they make KYB internal swaps. There's all kinds of guys and suspension tuners who can work magic, or you just get a whole nother set of forks. Because like I said, this thing was getting ready to go on Facebook Marketplace, and I was just gonna find a KTM with open bath or a newer bike with just a more simple off-road fork that's tunable and actually works from the start of the travel to the bottom. 4CS works, never mind, it doesn't work. So overall, this bike's super fun. It's a 2016. It might not be quite as light as the brand new bikes. The motor has all of 10 hours on it since a full rebuild and recovery from thievery. And I don't really see a reason to buy a new bike for a while. Hopefully you got some cash and can buy brand new bikes, but if you don't, older bikes are a great option.